Hello and welcome to Getting to Know You. I'm your host, Robert Jaquay. On today's program, we're going to be talking with Robert Stevens, Executive Director, and Liz Allen, Program Director from Literacy Volunteers Mohawk Hudson affiliate. They've been our guests before, but there's new things to share, so let's go meet them. Liz and Bob, thank you very much for agreeing to be on the show today.
It's nice to be here.
Actually, it's nice to have you back.
Thank you very much.
We did a program really soon after the television studio became a reality. So that's about a year and a half now. So it's going to be sort of like a refresher program as far as literacy volunteers, but with some new things too. Mm-hmm. Before we start talking about literacy volunteers in the Mohawk Hudson chapter, is it?
Affiliate.
Affiliate, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to have our viewers get to know you a little bit better by finding out who you are, where you came from, and how you got here. So Liz, I'm going to start with you.
Well, I'm the program director at Literacy Volunteers, and I got involved with the organization actually as a tutor. In 2002, I signed up to take the tutor training workshop in my hometown library in Guilderland, and was matched with a student and had such a wonderful experience tutoring her that I actually decided to change careers. I had been an editor and was enjoying my one day a week with my students so much that I decided to go back to school. I got a master's in teaching English as a second language and completed that in May 2006. Was out on the job market, and about a month later I learned about an opening at the very same Literacy Volunteers affiliate that I had worked with as a tutor. I applied for the job, and here I am.
How wonderful, really inspiring as far as the fact of being involved and all of a sudden want to make a career out of it. So, now Bob, what about you?
I've been at Literacy Volunteers for 8 years now. I'm the executive director and come to Literacy Volunteers from after a long history as an entrepreneur. And after having sold the last business, decided that it might be nice to do something in the not-for-profit world, and for an organization that ran really good programs but maybe needed some of my expertise on the financial or organizational side, and that's been very rewarding for me. I'm a lifelong resident of town of Colonie and a Siena graduate, and have lived my whole life within about 2 or 3 miles of this building, so I feel very at home here.
Wonderful, wonderful, and welcome again. I remember we've known each other over the years here, and your presence is, you know when you're here, let's put it that way, and your enthusiasm certainly is contagious. And so let's talk about Literacy Volunteers and exactly what it is. I'm sure people could put the two words together and come up with an idea, but let's get into some specifics. What is Literacy Volunteers?
Literacy Volunteers has been around for more than 45 years now. Was started in Syracuse, New York by a woman by the name of Ruth Colvin, who just recently received her honorary degree from Skidmore College, and so I was up there to greet her in the last few days and say hello to her. She's in her 90s, and she's hale and hearty and doing very well. Literacy Volunteers for many, many years was a one-on-one tutoring program of adults, and our definition of an adult is someone age 16 and over and out of school. And in either one of 2 programs in basic literacy, and that's for the people who were born here, raised here, went to school here, maybe even graduated from high school here in this country, but still read at or below a 5th grade level. And English for speakers of other languages, and that's for the immigrant community, those people who are new to our community and who want to learn conversational English. All of the programming has been done for all of these years. Most of the programming has been done entirely by volunteer tutors who are trained by the Literacy Volunteer staff to work with these adult students. And typically tutors will meet with a student between 1 and 2 hours a week throughout the year, and sometimes those relationships can go on for years and years, and sometimes they will last just a few months. The success of literacy volunteers for all of this time lies in part in the fact that we work on the goals of the student. When the student comes to us and expresses their need in literacy, their need to read or their need to communicate in English, then we elicit from them what it is that they really want to be able to accomplish. And then the tutor targets the instruction to that need.
I can imagine. I mean, I remember seeing television advertisements where it was clear that people were having a hard time transacting life because of the fact that they couldn't read. And they would maneuver through life with a lot of carefully structured devices so that they could actually avoid having to be put into this particular situation. And it would seem that a lot of people are ashamed of it, are reluctant. So is that so?
It is so, and it points out a big difference between the basic literacy student and the ESOL student. The basic literacy student is the one that you characterized.
Right.
That person who has spent their lifetime trying to hide the fact that they don't read well. And typically the average person isn't even going to recognize the fact that they don't read well because they've established so many workarounds for it that you don't even realize that they're a non-reader. They don't necessarily have a community, if you will, that they're hooked into, so that they might not even necessarily know that there's help that they can access. And because they're non-reader, they may not know how to go about getting help for their non-reading. The English for Speakers of Other Languages student, the immigrant student, could be far, far different.
Right.
They want to assimilate in the community, and they have many times their own community. They have other people from the country that they've come from that they are associated with when they come here. And those folks, learn about the fact that there are free services from literacy volunteers. And so they are willing and often come to us very freely for help.
I think I heard you say other languages now, because it used to be just singular.
English is a second language.
And reality is, and I was talking to you before we started, that other people have other languages and multiple languages. So sort of like politically correct, but really accurate as to what's really happening.
That's right. We have people coming, for example, from the Middle East, and they might speak Arabic, they might speak Pashto, and there are many areas of the world where the countries are much smaller and closer together, and in order for people to move around and communicate with people who live nearby, they need more than one language. So when they come here, they often will have 2, 3, 4, even 5 languages under their belts. Same goes for African countries, where the different tribes speak different languages, and in order to work in commerce and that sort of thing, they have to use many different languages. And often they know a smattering of English as well, but rarely are they proficient in English, and that's why they come to us.
Now, does becoming a citizen, is that a motivator for people as far as the citizenship examinations? Is that something that people would use as propel them forward to say, I need to do this, or is it just a byproduct of saying, I know that in order to maneuver in this culture, I need to be able to speak English?
Well, citizenship, yes, many people do want to become citizens, and the citizenship test consists of several different parts. They have to be able to read the questions and answer the questions, and then there's an oral interview, and they have to be able to they have to be able to comprehend what the interviewer says, and they have to be able to express themselves well enough to the interviewer to pass the exam. And so there are a number of people who come to us expressly because they want to pass the citizenship exam. And although there are programs in the community on passing the exam, some of them need more help, or they have limited time, and the one-to-one tutoring works for them.
It seems like a more comfortable way to do it as well, you know, as far as getting personalized attention. I recall people coming to the information desk here at the library, and at that time I believe we had a class at least one night a week here at the library. And I would always find that when these people who were strangers and really very kind of tentative and weren't sure what they were getting into, once they went upstairs and came back down again at the end of the evening, all of a sudden they were part of a group of people that were really enjoying each other and I think motivated to come back as well. So.
It's also a nice segue, Bob, into talking a little bit about our relationship with libraries.
Yes.
For this whole 40-plus year history of literacy volunteers, we've had close relationships with libraries. And just today I received a report from Pro-Literacy America, who's one of our umbrella organizations. And in there they gave the reports for 06, 07, and again stating that the #1 referral source for students to our program is libraries. So libraries continue to be an important community resource in terms of people being able to access that sort of resource.
Right, it's a safe place. We find that with all sorts of questions. It's a safe place for people to come and sort of like dare to ask a kind of question that's more than likely pretty daunting for them to ask.
Safe and welcoming,
Well,
because
that's right.
a library is a place that you can walk into and nobody's going to ask you why you're here. You know, you can walk in and wander around and sit down and pick up a book or a magazine and nobody's going to bother you. So for lots of reasons, libraries are the type of resource for the community that welcomes people in and makes them feel at home.
And we welcome that too because we build lifelong users of the library too. So you know, now as far as the tutor training, and we participated in grants here where we have actually had classes, I believe, where tutors are trained. So the whole idea that if you are interested in volunteering, it's a volunteer, right? Mm-hmm. There's a way where you can come into a library setting and go through a structured program and get credentialed in some sort of way?
That's correct. Get certified as a literacy volunteers tutor. We call them training workshops.
Okay.
They're typically a series of 6 workshops that are 2.5 hours each. We would have them sometimes during the day, sometimes in the evening, you know, for convenience of the prospective tutors. And when you're done with that tutor training, you are able to, you will be matched with a student, either a basic literacy student or an ESOL student, and you are able to go out and then tutor with that student.
What kind of things are people who participate in this, are they trained for? What are some of the aspects of it? I'm curious.
Well, one of the techniques that we use both in our basic literacy program and in our English for Speakers of Other Languages program is the language experience approach. And it's a wonderful way for low literacy adults to learn how to both write and read English. Basically, the tutor, the student dictates his or her own experience to the tutor. It could be a story, it could be something that happened the day before, and the tutor takes down the very words of the student on a sheet of paper, and then the tutor helps the student read his or her own words.
So it's tailor-made, so that when someone's being trained as a volunteer, a tutor, then they're given the insights as to how to do this particular process.
That's right. They're shown how to do that. It's very effective. Then we also use a lot of realia, or authentic.
I was hungry, but I realized that realia is just
right. Actually, this is not realia. This is fake realia.
This is fake realia.
I actually picked these up this weekend at a yard sale. It's just fake plastic fruit, but it's the type of objects, or they could be real fruit objects, that the tutor would bring in during a tutoring session to teach the student vocabulary, and very important vocabulary. They could have food items. If the student, let's say, was working in the construction trades, the tutor would bring in tools that the student might use on the job. For health concerns, if someone was concerned about their health or wanted to know how to talk to the doctor, then the tutor could bring in Band-Aids and prescriptions, that sort of thing, to help the student understand what these. I have to stop.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I just,
Just pause and
yeah.
just keep going.
I don't know where to go back to though. Start talking about maybe cut after the fruit and the tools. Skip the health literacy.
Okay, okay, because I can ask you, I don't know how you want to finish that because we don't have a playback.
Yeah. I could talk, you know,
Well, we'll go there. I just want to,
Okay.
because there's another question that
Yeah.
came up in my mind as you were talking. What do you think we want to do? Want to
Keep going. Keep going. I can spot.
Yeah, if you just want to talk a little bit more about this, unless you've drawn a super blank about it, because you were talking about bringing things in,
Yeah.
and it was all about, the whole idea is about identifying things, and
Yeah.
my question
You
is,
left off with prescriptions.
Yeah.
You could bring in a prescription, and that would help them
Okay.
understand.
okay, I can come up with a question then.
Okay.
Okay.
So I mean, this is really preparing people. I mean, I know if you went to a drugstore, I mean, just being able to ask for basic things or go to your doctor's office, as you said, just giving them sort of the basics. I mean, going to a foreign language for me, I'd like to know exactly, you know, what little I'd be able to do so I could at least get by, and going to a restaurant perhaps, things like that. Now, a tutor is given these skills. Do they have a network themselves where they kind of can get together, or can they say, my gosh, I don't know how to do this, and do they get back to you and say, what do I do now? I've been presented with this particular issue.
That's a good question. First of all, the tutors often bond in the workshop itself, and they make friends through that. But also, we ask the tutors to come back on a regular basis. We have in-services, professional development in-services for them, where we offer them additional strategies to use with their students, or we might give them more theory on, for example, second language learning, how somebody actually learns a second language. This past year, we've given in-services on computer literacy, where we were teaching the tutors about how to use the computer in their lessons, which they can then pass on to their students. And we had in-services on how to use music to enhance their tutoring, and also how to use visuals to enhance their tutoring. So we try and get them back on a regular basis, and they get to see their old classmates, and they get support from the staff.
Great. What motivates somebody? Is it the spirit of volunteerism, Bob? Is you know, all of a sudden, of all the things that, you know, people, you hear about this a lot and read about it, so I guess it's one area you could focus on, but why in goodness names? Is it a retired teacher? Is it somebody who's been in education?
That's also an interesting question, because in all the time that I've been at Literacy Volunteers, I go to every one of those tutor training workshops, and I greet those workshops as they start, and I always ask two questions. How did you hear about Literacy Volunteers, and what brought you here today? To try to understand, to continue to understand what motivates people to come. And very, very often we find that people express that they love to read, and they just can't stand the thought that somebody else can't read, and they want to help people that want to learn to read. And so I suppose that sort of speaks to the basic literacy side.
Yep.
The other side is the ESOL side, and those are the folks who like to travel and love other cultures and want to learn about other cultures. And they see that as a way to, because they've traveled and been in foreign countries and had this language barrier that they've encountered, and understand how hard it is for someone, you know, to come to a new place and learn the language. So there's that motivation. There are many many retired teachers who don't want to give it up or want to continue, you know, what they've done in the past. And they are a wonderful resource to literacy volunteers.
I know we have tutors here during the day, and I'm just curious about that. And does a time commitment, you're talking about once a week generally, and for a year or more, is that something that people grapple with, or is it just, you know, I'll do it, and I guess if they can't do it anymore, they decide they can't do it anymore?
Yeah, and I think it is something that people grapple with, and certainly people come with good intentions, and we do ask for that 1-year commitment, and often, most times, people stay for longer than a year. We've had people stay for 20 years tutoring, so, and we truly love to have, you know, those sorts of tutors. But yeah, folks do find that it becomes a commitment. Certainly, they bond with their student, and they realize that they don't want to let the student down oftentimes, because there is preparation on both the student's part and on the tutor's part. They both have to get prepared for their weekly session, and oftentimes there's homework follow-up for the student to do also. So both sides of that coin have a commitment that they need to make.
And it's very community-based too. I mean, you're talking about the library as a place where people connect, and I would imagine that students, if you offer this through a particular library setting, then you're going to have people in that general community who want to be involved, and then you're going to have the students also that I would presume that live in this area as well. So it's really a community building kind of thing as well.
Many times the students do have transportation, and they're, you know, can be mobile, and they can move around and meet at various locations. But oftentimes it's the tutor who has that ability, and so that the tutor and student find a mutually agreeable place to meet. Libraries, community centers, churches, McDonald's.
I was going to say Starbucks.
Yeah, Starbucks. Yeah, really any place that two people can get together and have some quiet time. I mean, they need a little bit of quiet time. But most often, because as you know, it happens here in the Colonie Library all the time that this tutoring is happening, the average person walking in wouldn't even recognize that was what's going on.
Absolutely not. Now, Liz, I know you brought other props too, which I'm fascinated by. I see a Scrabble board down here, and I see some other things. So let's talk a little bit more about the techniques that you would use to help people to accomplish their goals.
Well, of course, we have standard workbooks, although we kind of discourage the overuse of workbooks or prepared materials. We prefer that the materials come from the environment, but we do have these kind of books available to our tutors. We have DVDs and of course the old videos.
Good old videos, right.
VHS videos.
Because visual eventually turns into verbal and
yes. Well, and the beauty of a DVD or a video is that you can stop and start it. So you can show a little bit of it at a time, stop it, and then discuss it with the student. The student can, if he or she is just learning how to speak English, can point things out in the film, use their vocabulary, or maybe answer more difficult questions. So that's wonderful. Also, listening to music is a very good thing for our students to do. There are a lot of lyrics, especially lyrics from music of the 60s.
Yay!
Yay, 60s. It's music, the lyrics are very natural sounding. It sounds like spoken English.
Okay.
There's rhyming in there. There's adverbs and adjectives, and so the tutor can sort of select different language elements that they want to focus in. And they can sing together, so it makes it fun. We want the learning experience to be fun for students.
My grandmother came from Poland and did not know how to speak English, and she learned how to speak English through the television, and she had an elementary dictionary, so apparently eventually she could, and there was a picture, one of the picture dictionaries, but the television played an important role in how she started to put things together and construct.
And now we have closed captions,
right.
So the student can not only look and listen, but also read. A lot of our students use that.
And interestingly, Bob, the picture dictionary is still a
still a
valuable tool,
valuable
and we
tool.
still use it a lot.
Cool.
Yes, still a valuable
I can still
tool.
see it. I can
Yeah.
still see it.
Yeah.
What else? I see you now. What is it? What would a Scrabble board do?
Scrabble is nice because it happens to be one of my favorite games in the world. I think that's how I developed my own love of vocabulary and new words and that sort of thing. But by manipulating the tiles, it's just some people learn better with their tactile senses. So, you know, they can just use the regular Scrabble holder tray, yes, and make words on here, and eventually they can play the game. So it's just some people learn better if they can touch things.
And I would imagine, like I said to you before, when the group comes down, they're generally very, laughter and feeling very. So there's an ease to it. No one is really being put to the test. It's fun. So really you learn that way. I think it's easier. You're not being judged. I'm sure mistakes are very common, and people have to get over the idea that they can't make mistakes.
Yeah. And we talk about that in the tutor training. Both programs, the tutors are encouraged to make the student feel comfortable, not to correct too often, but rather to model proper speech or proper writing, not to focus on mistakes, but to focus on their accomplishments. There's a lot of confidence building that goes on in the sessions, as Bob said, the tutor and student often develop a real bond. They're often of the same age, or generally our tutors are older than our students.
Yeah, I would.
My student, for example, was in her 30s, and I was in my late 40s. And we developed a very close relationship, and I became like the American grandmother to her children. And
family now.
Family is huge. Everyone has family. It's one of the lesson topics that we suggest our students start out with. Find out about your student's family, talk about your own family, and almost right away they have something in common.
I see a picture book here, and I'm sure that's a very good way to have images and words. And I recall also working at the reference desk, people coming for a topic, and we built a very good collection in the children's library for educational, to span educational, and to get an adult to feel comfortable to go into that room, take the stigma off, saying this really might help you more. Well, also because it's probably the best information in the library, but there's a stigma attached, I think, for an adult to go into a children's environment. But I mean, clearly so. I mean, the message should go out there that this is very approachable material.
Yeah. Well, we actually discourage our tutors from using children's books to teach reading to adults.
All right.
If the adult student has children, then it becomes more appropriate.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. So you're not really wanting them to realize that this is what you...
Well, and oftentimes an adult student will approach us or come to us because they want to be able to read to their child, or they want to be able to help their child with their homework. And so therefore that's a good way to help the parent to work with their child. Family literacy, there's been more and more recognition over the last few years that family literacy is a very important issue, that if the parents are non-readers, then the children will have more trouble becoming lifelong readers, because there aren't books in the home, there aren't magazines in the home. They don't bring the kids when they're very young to come to the library to get their library card, because there's not a culture or a history in their home of being readers. So we oftentimes will encourage parents to read to their children as a way to make sure that next generation understands the value of reading.
Excellent. Now, Liz, also before we started the shoot today, you shared with me a work in progress, in preparation, a cookbook actually. And so why don't you talk about that a bit? And I think we have time for one of the little stories you wanted to.
Okay. Well, every year we have an end-of-the-year event. It's a celebration of the hard work of our tutors and students. And we always publish a book that includes student writings. So this year we decided to make our student writings into a cookbook. We asked our tutors to help the students write either a recipe from their own family background, whether that was American cooking or Afghani cooking or Indian cooking, Chinese cooking, or they could write a story about food, something that had a story that had something to do about food. So this is our cookbook. It's called Words for the Table, Recipes from Around the World, Students of Literacy Volunteers, Mohawk, Hudson, Inc. And we have over 50 recipes and or stories in the book. It was a huge outpouring from our students. We're very excited about it. And if you like, I could share
Yes, you will.
one of these.
If you would.
Okay. I'll read you something from one of our basic literacy students. I can find it here. It's called Cooking Class. And this is what the student writes. At first, I didn't want to go to cooking class. I am a diabetic and on a special diet. I made an apple pie today. I peeled and sliced the apples. I made a top crust for it. I like the cooking class. Lori is my teacher. She is very nice. She helps me put the pie together. I also made sugar-free cookies and tacos. I enjoy eating what I make. And then he wrote a recipe, which is in the other section of the book. It's a recipe for, now I have to find it. We don't have the pages
It's a
cross-referenced.
galley,
Yes.
galley.
Yes. It's not cross-referenced. I know it's under desserts, though. Here it is. Strawberry and or banana smoothie. 1 cup frozen or fresh strawberries, or 2 bananas, or ½ cup strawberries and 1 banana. 1/2 cup plain low-fat yogurt. It's very health conscious. 2 to 4 tablespoons maple sugar or sugar substitute. 1/2 to 1 cup low-fat milk, depending on how thick you want your smoothie. Mix all ingredients in a blender or food processor until smooth. Pour into cups. And for you and I, that might be fairly easy to write, but I'm sure that the tutor and student
Exactly.
spent a lot of time
Exactly.
working on the precise vocabulary and how to phrase and spell the piece. So that was quite an accomplishment for him.
Wonderful. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that. Now, I know that we're going to have here at the William K. Sampertown Library, we're going to have a tutor training workshops in the fall. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Due to the good graces of Assemblyman Bob Riley, we received a grant just a couple of months ago to support a tutor training workshop here at the Colonie Library in the fall, and it's through the Assemblyman's salary offset fund. This is not member item money. This is not taxpayers' money. This is his money that he does not take in salary. And so the specific reason for that is to have it in his assembly district, which includes, of course, Colonie, and to do the tutor training here. So we're excited about that. And by having a grant, it allows us to do additional outreach for prospective tutors, something we typically would not be able to do for this kind of a program. And we know that when we're able to do outreach here in Colonie, we always get a wonderful response, and so we're really appreciative of him and the libraries, your good graces of allowing us to have the tutor training workshops here.
Well, it's certainly our pleasure, and it's so successful, as you say. It's great to do, and the specifics will be forthcoming as far, or do you have those now?
I've got them.
Okay.
Excuse me. This will be a workshop for the basic literacy students, and it will be on 6 Tuesday afternoons from 12:30 to 3 p.m. beginning on October 7th, running for well, it's about 6 weeks.
Okay.
And if anyone's interested in joining the workshop, they can call us.
Okay, can you give the number?
Yes, it's 452-3382.
Okay.
And we also have a website.
Okay, and you'll put the number and the website up there. It's a long website, so we won't have to. I won't put you under the stress to give it out, but we'll put the website there as well, and it'll be specific information about that there.
Yes, it'll all be up on the website.
Okay, terrific. Well, unfortunately, we're at the end of the time we have together today, and before we sign off, I'd like to ask if there's anything that you'd like to restate, re-stress, or did we forget something?
I don't think we've forgotten anything. I do want to just restate that that we are very appreciative of the library and the community and our volunteers. They are incredibly important to our program. For most of our 40 years, all of the direct services have been delivered by volunteers, and we truly appreciate everything they do for us and for the people of our town.
Excellent, and we like having you here too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Bob and Liz, thank you again for agreeing to be on the show. It was my pleasure, and I'm sure we'll be talking again some other time.
Certainly.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to it.
And thank you for joining me on Getting to Know You. I hope you enjoyed today's program and will join us in the future. Until then, have a good one.